The problem is not that politicians are worse. The problem is not that the issues are tougher. And so it's important for us to understand that the situation we find ourselves in today is not somehow unique or hopeless. We've always gone through periods when our democracy seems stuck. And when that happens, we have to find a new way of doing business. We're in one of those moments. We've got to build a better politics.
Here's one person who thinks she will. Now, Hillary Clinton was thumped, embarrassed, hammered, pounded, wrecked, destroyed, humiliated, how am I doing so far, in the New Hampshire primary. And Bernie Sanders is on track to roll over the Clinton dynasty, sending it forever packing into the ethereal mist of time and a possible felony conviction. Now, if you're buying all this, then you need to stop listening to the hack commentators and phony pundits out there and let us deliver some savvy political lessons. Nothing is ever that easy when it comes to elections. And when you look under the surface, you see the reality of what may still be inevitability. Got that? This is where we begin the Friday Eve edition of the Political Animal. Standing, in this case, sitting tall for the left, veteran Democratic strategist J.D. Gins, and prepared to do battle from the right, veteran Republican strategist Ford O'Connell. All right, gentlemen, let's get to it. J.D., I'm going to start with you about Hillary Clinton. The Congressional Black Caucus PAC has backed Hillary Clinton. We've been talking for a couple of days, saying that the Clinton campaign has known all they have to do is get the black vote behind them, and Bernie Sanders will disappear in the dust like a bad dream. What do you think?
Well, I think that's certainly been the conventional wisdom, and we've seen how far conventional wisdom has gotten candidates this cycle. I think it's clear that Bernie Sanders is doing very well with people who liked Hillary Clinton when she was running against Barack Obama. And it's true that a lot of the establishment is lining up behind Hillary Clinton now, but the question is she really inspiring higher than unusual turnout, or will the turnout actually be normal or even a little off in the general election, or excuse me, in the primary among minority voters? So I don't think it's clear yet. I think after South Carolina happens, we'll actually have a real basis to base that opinion on.
Ford, honestly, though, and you've been around this game for a long, long time, how does Hillary Clinton inspire anybody at this point when every single wart has been exposed? And as a matter of fact, some people are saying, don't worry, the African-American vote will save her. I've got black friends who've come to me and said, I'm not going to save her. I think she's one of the worst liars we've ever seen.
Well, it's not just her lying. She's the only candidate this cycle saying, I need more of the political establishment. The bottom line, though, is if black voters turn out for her, she's the nominee. But even if they don't turn out for her, she'll probably still be the nominee. And here's why. There's nothing democratic about the way Democrats select a president. Bernie Sanders thrashed her by 3 touchdowns in New Hampshire, and yet she got more delegates. The fix is in. She's inevitable unless she gets indicted. And even if Bernie does break the black firewall, she'll come up with something with the Hispanics or the unions.
But this is also, Ford, here's one other
shape.
thing. You hit on this very briefly. Here's one of the super delegates. The superdelegates have been around since 1984. Here, if anybody doesn't understand this, they're 20% of the total delegate pool. Ford, it doesn't really make a difference. Bernie Sanders can still beat her overall, yet the superdelegates are all behind Hillary Clinton. The fix is in.
And that's exactly right, because Democrats don't want their voters to actually vote. They want the party elders to pick it. If we had this on the Republican side, we'd have a real revolution. The only question is, instead of feeling the burn, Sanders supporters should start learning the rules. Then they'd really get mad.
Hey, JD, let's kind of work on that for a second. I got to stop you because this goes right into the next thing here. Harry Reid said today, he kind of intimated that, hey, maybe a brokered convention wouldn't be a bad idea. This is the first time we've heard this now from the left. JD, please correct me if I'm wrong, but when this came up with the Republicans a month ago, I heard people on the left making fun, laughing at the Republicans, saying, oh, look at you guys, you need a brokered convention. Harry Reid says it out loud, and all of a sudden he says it might be kind of fun. Come on, JD, it's a double standard.
Well, I think that the superdelegate role is okay for people who don't understand it. But really, the truth is, if Bernie Sanders starts making real moves, and he does a big number in Nevada, and he does a big number in South Carolina, and he shows that he actually has a path into minority voters, then superdelegates might change their mind. Once they've pledged their support, that doesn't mean they can't change their mind. Doesn't mean that there can't be a convention fight. And it doesn't mean that it's inevitable. For a lot of people, it made a lot of sense to support Hillary Clinton. But if Bernie Sanders continues to raise money, continues to win elections, continues to motivate voters, then I think you'll see some superdelegates change their mind, and that might happen at the convention. The Democrats should be prepared for a long fight. Bernie Sanders has got plenty of money to stay in this fight, and so if it comes to that, that's not the end of the world, but I do think we'll see this end up getting resolved before the convention.
He got an extra $7 million, by the way, after his bump from New Hampshire. Ford, to you on the right side. George W. Bush is going to make his first appearance for his brother Jeb. It will come on Monday in South Carolina. All right, Ford, from the right, settle this now. People say that he doesn't need nor does he want the former president there because George W. Bush is just bad mojo for people. They don't want another Bush in the White House. Do you disagree with those people and just find them to be nothing more than critics?
Right now, Jeb Bush needs to find a way to win third in South Carolina if he wants to keep his donors happy for staying in the race. The problem is right now is as long as you have a muddled, basically mainstream Republican lane with Kasich, Rubio, and Bush, guess what? Donald Trump skates to the nomination with a plurality of votes. He's throwing the kitchen sink in South Carolina, and he's hoping they reciprocate back.
But do you think it's a good idea to have the former president, who many people, even on the right, aren't very happy with to this day, campaigning for him at a critical time?
Try this. If you don't outrun John Kasich and Marco Rubio, does it really matter whether you use George W. Bush or not? He's down. He's grabbing at straws. He needs to do anything he can because what he's been doing right now hasn't been working.
All right, J.D., I got 30 seconds left. Dirty tricks in South Carolina. How dirty does it get in South Carolina?
Oh, it gets dirty, and that's okay. You know, I heard somebody else say it. When we're picking the president of the United States, we should have a stress test. And if they can't handle South Carolina, then they might not be able to handle Vladimir Putin, and might not be able to handle the Middle East. So if they can't handle dirty tricks in South Carolina, then they should pack it up and go home.
I like that. 10 seconds, Ford. Wouldn't you agree? Punch him up. Come on, bring it on. Let's toughen him up.
I actually, for once, agree with J.D., even though he's against democracy, okay, with the superdelegates. South Carolina's bare-knuckle brawling, and you got to duke it out. You got to fight and show you want it.
That's what I want to see every single time. Enough of this fluffy stuff here. Let's just go get him. Ford O'Connell, J.D. Gins, always a pleasure, gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk soon. Hey, what does a certain cable network hope to gain in their blatant push for one Republican candidate? We'll talk about that next, right here on The Hardline.